Good morning. It's Saturday morning, July 16th, 2022. This is Ron Brown. I'm going to do a relatively short market report just to try to get a feel for what's going on. I may take a look at some user smart groups just to see if we can find some trades that are setting up. But here is my standard risk disclaimer that I show every week and in every video that I make. Any stock, index, or ETF mentioned in this presentation is not a recommendation to buy or sell. All trading strategies are used at your own risk. If you don't have HGSI, and you should, you can go to highgrowthstock.com and order a trial, and you'll also get my files from the Insider Club and membership for 1 month. Okay, I want to mention that I recorded 5 videos for people who may want to try HGSI and the Insider Club but don't want all of this information that I give to the Insider Club members. So those were put up on YouTube and released last night at midnight. I will include a link in my Insider Club report where you can find that list, and I'll also try to put it on Twitter and mail it out to the group for HGSI that reaches several thousand people. So if you're interested in that, in those videos, just check your mail later today. Anyway, I'm going to start up here using my regular files. You can see that I have a lot in here, and this is why I've cut it down. What I've done is on the starter market analysis user groups, I've cut it down to this number of groups rather than showing all of these. A lot of people like to have all this information, and some find it overwhelming. Most new users do find it overwhelming. I admit that, so I'm trying to cut it down. That's why if you find that there's just too much in this program, take a look at those 5 videos and maybe just install the smaller version of my Insider Club files. Okay, let's get on with it. I'm starting here my Major Markets Plus folders, and let's just take a look at it. I'll sort on raw combo, and you can see that the Bitcoin Investment Trust is at the top of the list. It was up 4.3%. We're getting a rally in cryptos now for the past couple of days. Will it last? I don't know. It's really been a tough go for cryptos. Let's just bring this chart up, and you can see the weekly chart here. It is finding support down here, and you'll find this on many of the cryptos, especially Bitcoin, that it's at a support area. Of course, we don't have cryptos in HGSI, but there are plenty of places where you can look at cryptos. I use, of course, Thinkorswim, and also investing.com is a good place to track the cryptos. Now, let's look over here at the daily chart. What we're seeing here is a couple of pocket pivots. We're also seeing VPA accumulation flags, and we've seen them for a while. This is low volume test, no supply, no supply. This one here is strength seen returning after a downtrend, and this is confirmation of that strength. But just realize, and I'm sure you realize this, that this is in a very strong downtrend. It's gone from around 54 down to the current price of 1370. It is showing signs of accumulation, but there is a ton of overhead resistance. When you look at it on the weekly chart, you can just see how far it has to go. But there are signs of accumulation. The 3 did cross the 6. You can see that with this spike above here. And there are pocket pivots, and the volume point of control for the 10-day period went positive also. So accumulation, but there's a lot of resistance. What I want to do though is go to my NASDAQ composite, which I normally analyze every day and send out to you. And let's just look at it on the weekly chart. You can see that it's been a disaster from 16,268 area. And where did we close yesterday? The close was at 11,452, it looks like. But it too is under accumulation on the weekly chart. We do have, I'm going to zoom in on this, use my alternate 1 key, and I'm going to drop down and just look at the daily chart instead. Now these are support and resistance lines are drawn in automatically. If you don't want them, edit the indicator, VPA support and resistance. Just go to invisible and you can get rid of them. So what do we have here on the NASDAQ? Okay, I'm going to bring up a drawing tool and I'll make it a line. If I can find my L. Okay, so here is the low. And here's this short-term high. We have a higher low than this low. And we didn't quite get the higher high. It went up there and formed a double top. But this low here is above this low. So this is a higher low, but it still hasn't surpassed this area up here. Now, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, we will not see a daily trend until this line is surpassed. So it's going to have to form that higher high. Could go up and form a triple top, but what really stands out to me is this. Yeah, we had a good day yesterday, but look at that volume. It's just really non-existent. You go up here, I shouldn't say non-existent, but compared to what we've had, less than average volume, spreads narrow, but the close was very high. So we're at the point where we could go in to a daily uptrend, but the weekly uptrend, let's see, this would be the low. I guess we can figure this as a higher low, which corresponds to this. And if this takes us out here, which is in this same area, okay, here's the low. I'm going to count this as a low. This is a higher low. And if it takes that area out, it really could change the weekly trend also. Now I'm going to change charts. I'm going to go into, you can see I have some starter charts here, my top-down analysis charts, into the market charts. I'm going to go to the chart that I use every day to send the snapshot out. And let's just take a look at this chart. Make this a red arrow. Okay, we're getting accumulation. We're up in B accumulation. I've already pointed this out here. The medium term is up, the short's down. These are VPA trends calculated. Still down 29.4% from the 52-week high and down 26.8% from the beginning of the year. Did have a good day yesterday, up 1.8%, closing near the high of the range, and that corresponds with what is up here. Here's our accumulation. These are all accumulation numbers. Bongo daily is yes. Bongo weekly is still no. These are internal relative strength starts. The trend is still down, and volume is miserable. Now, I've already talked about the higher lows and higher highs, so I'm not going to do that. Now, if I hit my alternate A key or go up and click on this here, it brings this up and it shows support and resistance lines and so on. But I scroll down to the bottom here, and I'll move this over here for now. And once again, look at the volume. Volume changed from the prior day. Had a big day, and the volume was even lower than it was the previous day. Advancers, more than 2 to 1. 2381 up, between 2 to 1 and 3 to 1. 2.5 to 1, I'd say. Advancing volume was obviously greater than declining volume. New highs and new lows. So a positive day, but not overwhelmingly positive. If it were overwhelmingly positive, the ADs would be much stronger than I'm seeing them here. If I click my alternate, or click on this, get rid of that. I want to go to the next chart down, which is new highs versus new lows. And I'll zoom in on this just to put things in perspective. You can see when the market's are really bad, the new highs spike clear up here when there's really strong selling. And you can see that this is really diminished compared to these peaks up here. And it's going down. Yesterday it fell, and these are new lows. I may have said new highs, I meant new lows, and here are the new highs. And we have not seen really strong new highs since this point back here when the market was way up at the top. Let me zoom in on this a little more. And you can see the new high spike was back here, another one back here. We haven't seen that for a long time, obviously. This was the extreme selling pressure right here. It bounced. But looking at the chart here, you can see that the fan is down. The EMA fan is down, and that's why in the prior view it said the fan was still down. So these are new highs, new lows, and these are, or this is the advanced decline line for the NASDAQ, and you can see that it's really been going down for a long time now. But it is bottoming, so we're starting to see some accumulation in the index, the advanced decline line, I should say. It's flattened out. It flattened out here, rallied a little bit, and then came back down. But it too, here's a low, here's a higher low, and looks like this low here is about the same as this one. So we are seeing some accumulation in the NASDAQ. Now, there are charts here for the NYSE composite. Same charts. I primarily look at the NASDAQ, but here's the new highs and lows in the NYSE and the AD line. Let's look at it. It's been a lot choppier, as you can see, whereas the AD line in the NASDAQ has been pretty much down all the way, or for a long period of time. So we're seeing some hope, aren't we? Trends are down, but we're seeing some accumulation here. I'm going to go back to my contextual charts. There is a lot of fear in the market, no question about it, and there are a lot of things to be fearful about. Inflation, and I really don't see that coming to an end right now. It's a supply issue. It's really all traced back to COVID. I know politicians like to blame each other, but the real problem, the source, is COVID. Look at what's happening in China. It's shut down, and it was shut down here for quite some time, and there's a supply issue because there isn't production, and even when there is production, getting the goods and services, or getting the goods here from China and even across the U.S. is a problem. I've noticed that store shelves, grocery store shelves here in Lincoln, my wife was saying that a lot of things she can normally just go in and pick up are not there. Yeah, we can blame the politicians for flooding the economy with money, but that it happened in Trump's administration and Biden's. Too much finger pointing and no real solutions. The Fed doesn't have a solution. They're in a bind. Raising interest rates will supposedly kill demand, but inflation is going to kill demand a lot faster than raising interest rates. It's raising interest rates are going to hurt people that are carrying a lot of debt, people that do want to buy a new car, things on credit and so on. Inflation is going to really, in my opinion, really going to kill demand more than raising interest rates. That'll just exacerbate the pain for a lot of people. As you all know, it really hurts the have-nots, the people that are living on the edge, which is most of the people in the country and in the world. And of course, another problem is the war in Ukraine, which Russia continues to pursue and kill people and destroy the agricultural productivity over there and increase inflation dramatically because of high energy prices. So like I said, there are plenty of things to be concerned about and scared about, and it's hard to take positions in a market environment like this. But as you can see, there are some areas that are moving up. Let's just, I'm going to go into my, I'll just use the starter market analysis user groups, and I just want to go into the HGSI sector indexes, and I'm just using this top-down view, and you can see where the changes were yesterday. Big move up in the financials, industrials, healthcare index, across the board. But looking over here or looking back this way, there are, two sectors that had above average volume based upon the Wyckoff calculations, and the rest of them had less than average volume. Let's just bring this up. Going to change to the index group. Let's take a look at this. Oh, I didn't want to bring this up yet, but you can see where the strength was in the big banks. Private equity. Let's just go in here and take a look. Oh, these are trust and fiduciary accounts, but once again, these, you have to put this in context. I mean, yeah, big day, but look where these are. They're just all really beaten down. Well, this one's a little more positive here, but people have been trying to get into these stocks all the way down. And yes, they are bottoming, and yes, you need to really look at each stock that you may be interested in. Look for here's a selling climax, for example. Here it formed a higher low, but it couldn't make a higher high. But this low is higher than this low, so that can be considered a higher low. And then if it takes out this high right here, then this stock, I would consider it to be in a trend. That is an uptrend. Weekly chart, you can see there's clearly support here, and if it takes that out, this would be a higher low and a higher high at that point on Northern Trust. Let's go back. Let's look at the diversified banks. Citigroup, of course, had a big move yesterday, as did Bank of America, Wells Fargo. So a lot of strength Citigroup's earnings came in much better than expected. Look at this huge volume effort to rise on that. Now this could be the start of a trend. Keep your eye on Citibank next week. Start of a trend on the daily chart. The weekly chart still has to get up past this area to be in a weekly trend. But if money continues to flow into Citigroup, it could be the start of an uptrend. Okay, I'm going to go back, but you can see how easy it is to, using this HGSI sector indexes, you can see how easy it is to see where the strength was, how much volume there was, what the spread did, and so on, and then just go top down. If you're using this number 5 folder, let's say I want to go into tech, I'm going to change to the index group, and then it breaks it down for me which of these tech groups were the strongest. Other hardware was the strongest group. And using this view, top-down analysis, major markets, I just want to go over here and look at the Bongo Weekly. There's only two groups that are positive on that. I'm going to use my quick pick, and I'm going to go down to my scorecard view for HGSI analysis. I don't have that in this view in the starter warehouse views, but you can use the daily prospecting scans. I'll just use this instead. End of day, and it will still work with these indexes. And if you scroll over to the right, you can see that I've included columns for advancers versus decliners, advancers, decliners, and unchanged. And this is just in my standard scorecard view. But the point is, we get so much more insight using HGSI into where the strength is with groups and starting at the sector level. Now I want to end this video. I'm going to take you into the designer. These are here are the starter user smart groups, and these I put 2 intraday groups in and 1 end of day, and I'm the end of day are low pivots, and these can be verified the following day. Let's just take a look at this. I'm going to use a low pivot with a VPA flag. These are pretty self-explanatory. I'll just transfer this over here. And I have 16. I limited, I believe, yes, I limited these to 16 stocks. Let's just take a look at this, and I'll explain what this does. And these are low-risk entries. It's a daily chart here. This is the weekly chart. Now this is a $1.30 chart, but it'll work. I mean, it was a 70-cent chart, and let me bring this up here, and I'll show why this is a low pivot. You can see the VPA flag. It's a no supply, a low volume test. I'll zoom in on this a little bit here. And this is a low pivot because this high is higher than this high, and this low is higher than this low. Now for this to be confirmed on Monday, and it does not mean it's going to continue up, but this high from the prior day has to be taken out. Let's look at the next chart. Okay, now here's an expensive stock. You can see it's moved up. Once again, this is a low pivot because it's lower than this, and this high is lower than this high. This is not a real good example, but here's your VPA flags too. So the requirement is the VPA flags. Now this is a good example of a low pivot. This low is lower than this, and this high is lower than this high. A confirmed pivot here would be taking out this high from the prior day. You're still going to have resistance up here. Now this is a strong stock, obviously, with a low pivot. Biotech. I'm going to drop up or go up here and put this in perspective, or in context, I should say. The group is strong. Biotechs have been strong. You can see it moved up here. Here was a buy point when the 3 crossed the 6. And at that time, the 6 was above the 18, and the 18 was above the 50. The VPOC went positive, clear back here at the same time. So that's your buy point. And this could be another buy point. Another cheap stock. I mean, but look at the percentage gains here. The from around 70 cents, it's up over 100% already, and it's very tight. There's interest in this stock, and I don't know why, but just looking at the chart and not looking at the price, it's really a nice looking chart. Let's go to the next one. I'll go back to the let's try to find one that's a little more expensive. Let's try bandwidth. I want to point out here as I take you across here, volume was low, the spread was narrow, closed very high. It hasn't crossed over yet. The 3 has not crossed the 6. It's been down for 6 days, and the VPOC has been down for 8 days. It's underperformed the S&P by 14% over 5 days. Same thing over 10 days. It was up yesterday. So let's just take a look at it. It's been underperforming, and you can see that it is down. Trend is a strong downtrend, but here is the low pivot. I'm just searching for low pivots here. It looks like it's close to testing support. Clearly in a downtrend, though. You always have to put these things in context. Now I want to drop down here and show you chart number 8. This is a chart I put in not long ago, and you can see that the blue line has been going down, and this confirms what I said about underperforming the S&P. If you look over here, you can see that it outperformed the S&P by 1% yesterday, but all of these other days down to this point, down to 15 days ago, it's been underperforming. There's a lot of information in these charts. I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to end this video. Let's just find a stock that's... This is the one I've already looked at, I believe. Oh, let's look at GameStop. GameStop. It's in here. Let's take this across. Low volume, narrow spread, closed near the high, crossed over the 3 and the 6 crossed over 7 days ago, as did the VPOC. It's got a good relative strength rating. They continue to buy this. It's outperformed the S&P by 11% over 5 days and 13% over 10 days. It was up 4% yesterday. Let's just take a look at GameStop. It's unbelievable that they keep buying this. Fundamentally, there's really no reason to. You can see that there's no trend either up or down. If you look over here, this is a relationship to the moving averages. But it appeared, because this could be classified, or it is classified, according to my filter, as a low pivot. Once again, this low is lower than this low, and this high is lower than this high. Not a traditional low pivot. This would be a traditional low pivot here, because this low is higher than this low. This high is higher than this high, and then here was the confirmation on the move up on that day. But this smart group, this filter does a good job of locating low pivots. And low pivots are relatively low risk entries. I said I wasn't going to do another one, but I am. I'm going to take a look at Zoom because I'm curious about this. It's been, the 3 has been below the 6 for 5 days, as has the VPOC. It's underperformed by 16% the 5-day on the versus the S&P, and by 9% over 10 days, up 2.6% yesterday. It's a $100 stock. Look at this stock. Let's look at the weekly in full mode here, and you can see what's happened with this stock. It was up around $600, and now it's down around $100. The revenue growth has been decent. The earnings growth has really fallen off the past 2 quarters, though, and that's represented by this blue line. It does have a PE, so many of these stocks don't. But on the weekly chart, okay, I'm going to edit the indicator. I want to get rid of these support and resistance lines, make them invisible. And let's take a look at this. Looks like the low was right here. I guess this could be considered a higher low and a higher high, but then it failed. So the trend, it started to trend up, and it really couldn't get past through this, but this low remains higher than this low. Now let's take a look at it on the daily chart. Now it looks totally different here, doesn't it? Okay, so here's your low, here's your higher low, here's your higher high where it breaks past resistance, continues to move up. Let's see, this would be a higher high, so would this, and then it came down and formed this. This is a higher low because this continued up and took out this high, and then here's your high, here's a low, double top, triple top. Okay, when this low was broken here, it formed a lower low, and now it remains in a daily downtrend. So what do we have here? We have a low pivot, and we also have a low volume test. Risky trade, but you can see buyers are coming in, but the enthusiasm is very, very light. Let's go back up to the number 1 chart, put it in perspective, and you can see the trend is clearly down yet, and there's been distribution here and here. One more chart, and I'm going to end this. Let's just go down to this candlestick chart. You can see that it's clearly been underperforming the S&P. Here's the S&P 500 up here. This blue line is down. The group has been going down, but we're starting to see a little buying. I mean, for bottom fishers, if you want to take a chance, yeah, or if you want to sell puts on it, the puts are probably really pumped up. You could take a chance there and sell a naked put somewhere down in the 90 area, and hope it holds, and just be willing to take possession if you're assigned. That's going to be it for this session. Yeah, in summary, it looked decent yesterday, but the lack of volume still concerns me. I don't see a lot of great looking charts, and I didn't really get into the high relative strength charts. I just don't have time for it. I don't want to drag this out. But I did want to point out this smart group, low pivots. These are in the starter smart groups, but they're also down here, right here. And here are some low pivots with the fan up. said I was quitting, but let's do this one quickly. Sorry about this. Okay, it says the fan is up. Here is in-phase energy. This has been a really strong stock. By strong, I mean, looking at this, you wouldn't think so, but relative to the market, it has been strong. The group rank is 94. The RS rank is 93. And it's been a loose stock, but here is your low pivot. I just want to point this out quickly. This low is lower than this low, and this high is lower than this high. And you can see that even though the renewables were down yesterday, there was really strong buying in here. This is a rose. This pocket pivot is rose because the price was down for the day. If the price had been up, it would be a blue pocket pivot. Volume point of control turned positive too. Just if the renewables pick up next week, just see if this stock goes, because it clearly has a lot of support, and you can tell that by this long wick. Okay, that's it. Thanks for listening. Ran a little longer than I wanted to, but I hope you learned something.